Once a year we do Generous, which is over and above our regular tithe that we do each week. And primarily we do this because it actually puts flesh on grace. It allows us as a church to go beyond just the maintenance on a building or the running costs of doing church, and allows us even more so to be church.
I think you need to be involved in Generous because it affects you just as much as the power of what you do, the power of you giving, sacrificially also affects the vision and the longevity of the church.
Multiplying healthy local churches just fuels me. If we can see what we experience on a Sunday in our local communities spread all through Australia and other parts of the world where we know that people are finding connectedness, it just makes me so fulfilled.
Over the last year, we've been able to go from 6 Elevation Church locations to 7 with the launch of Elevation Church Yamba. We're just so pumped that now there is a movement of people down there that are gathering, a movement of people who are so about being transformed by God, and they're taking the good news of that message into their communities. I so believe we're going to see Yamba and the Lower Clarence Valley transformed by the gospel. Our vision as Elevation Church is the growing of us as individuals to become bigger people, and it's also about the multiplying of our churches and what we do into other cities, into other towns, into other communities. When Jesus said to be the church, he didn't just reference buildings, and that's not what we believe as Elevation. We believe that the church is a movement of people that carries the good news of the gospel into a world that so desperately needs it.
We've actually this year, for the first time, have agreed to, as Elevation for all locations, to contribute into a central fund that's going to go towards church planting. The next church that we plant will have a resource already set aside. When we plant, or we want to do it well, we want to like we saw in Yamba, we want to be able to celebrate and go big and really let a community know, hey, we're here, Jesus is here, and there's a great message we want to bring.
The local church is the hope of the world, and that's the vehicle that Jesus has set up to carry the good news. And I just think about how many more cities, how many more towns, how many more communities are in our nation and the nations beyond that need the gospel.
Already this year we've had a few opportunities to send a couple of teams over to the Solomon Islands to help with the infrastructure over there, particularly with the Bible College. Being on missions trips, I think it's blown me away of the South Pacific is just their passion for God. It's raw, it's authentic. Despite what they don't have, they still have the passion to serve Christ, and they still have the passion to worship Him. That's why I love overseas missions, is because it's not just, despite where they come from, despite they may not have electricity, they may not have running water, but it doesn't mean they can't have Jesus.
I think with the South Pacific, number one, it's so close to us. And because it is so close, I feel this moral urgency that we've got to be a voice in those nations. And we have an opportunity this year to sow into the Solomons, into their Bible college. So our finance and our giving won't just build a structure, won't just build a toilet block as we have done in the past, but it's also going to shape lives that will then go out to other parts of the Solomons and the South Pacific and plant healthy local churches. So what we're doing is actually a legacy mindset.
In any family, there's rights and responsibilities. Because we're in this family of God and we're in this body of Christ, I think we have a right, and that is to be loved by Jesus, and that is His grace and His everlasting love. But I think there comes a responsibility with that right. And our responsibility is to express that love and to share that love and to take that love wherever it may be.
It's a very good thing to hold the Bible College here, because it draws the presence of God into this place. And not only this place, but people come from everywhere. When they come into this place, they feel something different. When the students come in, they say, oh, something is different here. And they will attract people to come in. Why? Because they will see something different. We feel too something is happening in this nation. Not only this nation, but the South Pacific.
So I've got two beautiful boys, Cruz and Denzel, who are 8 and 6. And before I moved to the Gold Coast, I was in a domestic violence relationship for 8 years with my boy's father. I just, had enough. I just up and left, and God opened doors where I moved to the Gold Coast and got me into a refuge centre. It was when I was at the refuge that I learnt the impact then of DV and what I went through. At that point, I was like sleeping out of my car without my children as well. So they were at their grandmother's and I was sleeping out of my car. Yeah, I just felt unsafe at that time and I reached out. And then we got into the Bessa House. Got accommodation and family support, which I was just relieved about, just having my children with me. I was just thankful that a church like Elevation had something like this. There's a lot of women in my situation that need the help, and for you to actually have this accommodation here is a blessing.
Since the beginning of Elevation Church, Quick Fits have been just a part of our DNA. It fits in with who we are, which is to not just have a come and see mentality, but a go and serve mentality. A quick fit is when we partner with an organization and do a quick renovation of their facilities, of their property, through the help of an army of volunteers at Elevation. It really is a sight to see. Quick Fits make a massive impact in our community because there's lots of great organizations, there's lots of great initiatives, whether they be something like the Pastor Home here, which is an Elevation initiative from Generous a few years ago, which is still going strong, still leaving a legacy, still making an impact, or other organizations in our community. There's great initiatives, but they're often under-resourced. So Quick Fits allows us to come in, support, champion that cause, be a difference maker, and allow them to take some real ground in a short period of time. When you look at Scripture, it's amazing how often God relates to communities and cities. He sends Jonah to Nineveh. Jesus weeps over Jerusalem. God is interested in the welfare of cities and communities, and so are we at Elevation. We want to be a church where if we were to ever close our doors, our community would mourn that we're no longer there, because the fact that we were there, not because of us, but because of Jesus in us, we were making that city, that community, a better place.
What more enjoyment do you get or fulfillment out of being Christ in the community and saying, well, we've got tilers, we've got painters, we've got carpenters, we've got people who can cook, we've got people that can decorate, and we're going to come in and we're going to make a difference. And just the sense of community it brings and unity that it brings to the people that are involved in the Quick Fit, I think is just amazing.
When we think about universities and schools and colleges, we can see the classrooms and we can think they're learning environments, when really there's so much more to it. Really, it's the place where we see students set their culture and their value system and what they believe. There's so much more to it. It's the place where decisions are made that will impact their future. Spending time with students, going into universities, cooking meals, cooking food, doing seminars. I think that's so important because it builds relationship, it shows that there's more, there's hope, but it also bridges that gap between the community and the church. Across our 7 locations, Red Frogs actually looks really different. From serving at the Quickie Pro through to serving in universities or high schools or trade colleges and busing students to church. There's so much that we already do, but there's also so much more that we can do, that the opportunities are endless. And that's what excites me, is that we can use this as a tool to take the gospel to places that have previously denied it, that have closed the doors, and Red Frogs can open it. So there's so much more we can do as a church to reach the students of this nation. It's not about an organization, it's actually a tool. It's a tool so that we can reach people. It's a tool so that we can love people, so that we can be the hands and feet of Jesus.
It's an avenue for us to, again, be visible grace in some of the darkest areas in our education system, in schools, in universities, where for a lot of people now, really, even if they're Christ followers, may find themselves studying and be under pressure so quickly to drift away from their faith. To be light in dark places, to be salt that's going to preserve people's souls, I think is the most beautiful thing as believers that we can be.
For me to give to my house, and to the local church, to something that I'm planted in and something that my roots go down deep in, of course I would give to that because I believe in it, and I think my money, my time, my service benefits my relationship with God, but so many other people as well.
Church is a family, and it's not a business. And a business, you can come and go. You can come and eat at a restaurant, leave your dirty plates, go to a motel, leave your towel, and walk out. It's someone's job to clean up. But a church is a family. And in a functioning family, everyone contributes. We all carry responsibility. And when we understand that our church, Elevation, and the church is a family, then it puts a responsibility back on us to be the answer and not being someone who just points out the problem. Generosity is really highlighted in the sacrifice. And a lot of times we think that giving our tithe is generosity, where in actual fact, scripturally, giving our tithe is simply repaying back to God what is already His. It's kind of like paying rent to the landlord. That's not generosity. That's just, hey, this is already yours. But generosity is really discovered in that second mile, in that sacrifice where we have denied ourselves maybe some luxuries in life just so that we can step up and be generous. This isn't about you have to be wealthy to be generous. This is for all of us somewhere can find in that sacrifice the joy of giving with a generous spirit.